Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. And a very warm welcome to this SBL InFocus webinar. My name is Martin, and I'm part of the team that provides student support here at ACCA. And this session today is designed to support you with your preparation for the SBL exam. And today it's all about stepping into the mind of the marker, I should say. And I'm very pleased to be joined by SBL expert tutor Sean Purcell, who's going to be running this session for us. Now, before I hand over to Sean, I'd just like to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen, there are a number of buttons you can use. There's a help icon on the left, and that will provide you resources and information to help you resolve any technical issues that you might experience. You'll need to see the icons for the slides and the media player. So just ensure that you've selected these two. There is also an attendee chat function, which will enable you to engage with fellow webinar attendees. And that icon is on the right-hand side. And please remember that's a public forum, so do not share any personal information, including phone numbers and email addresses. Now, we have also provided a list of the available resources. You'll see an icon that looks like a file symbol. If you click on that, you'll be able to access the resources that are relevant to today's webinar, including the direct links to the Read the Mind of the Marker articles, as well as the PDF versions of the slides that we will use. Now, you can rearrange your screen or resize your windows if you need to. And just in case you can't hear us at any point or you can't see the visuals, please do refresh your browser. Now, if you've registered for this webinar, it means you'll be sent an email tomorrow with details on how you can listen to it again. So don't worry if you miss something or you have any technical issues, you'll be able to access the recording. So I'm going to hand over to Sean in a moment. And if you'd like to ask ourselves or Sean a question, please click on the Q&A button, submit your question through that icon. We have a team in the back end that will be working to respond to your questions as we progress with the session. So please don't wait until the last minute. Do ask your question bright and early, just to ensure that we can respond to as many questions as we possibly can. So thank you so much once again. A warm welcome to everyone. Looking forward to a great session. I'm sure we'll have lots of useful insights that will help you in your preparation for your SBL exam. So welcome once again. And now over to you, Sean.
Thank you very much, Martin. And welcome everybody to this session where we are talking about stepping inside the mind of a marker. I hope you've read this great resource on the ACCA platform. It really is a fantastic resource which goes into a lot of depth on what the marker experience is when marking SBL papers. It gives you really in-depth analysis of what a good script looks like and why that good script got marks. And then it gives you analysis of what maybe without reading it in too much detail looks like an okay script, but doesn't really score many marks because it makes many of the mistakes, which I'm going to talk about on this session. So it's a really great resource that you must read. My name is Sean Purcell. I work as an expert tutor with the ACCA. In terms of my ability to share information on SBL with you, I actually, when SBL was launched, wrote all the training material for all the tutors around the world, delivered this to those tutors, and have worked with the education and examining team on the various guises of kind of SBL case studies for over 20 years. And yeah, and in that time, it's not just I've worked a long time. I have been awarded the PQ Tutor of the Year, and also I actually deliver platinum approved ACCA SBL courses. So I can empathize with tutors, I can empathize with students, I can empathize with the education and examining team. So hopefully I can bring some of that experience to you. But what we are going to look at on this course is We'll review some of the key points mentioned in the resource. The resource is quite comprehensive, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing with a fine-tooth comb because that would take us quite a long time, and you need to make some time in the diary to do that yourself. But if we just, summarize and maybe encourage you to go and look at it and highlight some of the key things, I think you're going to find that really useful and really inspirational to go and do some of this on your own. So if you've not done so already, you need to go through the resources and the sample answers in forensic detail, please, so you understand all the nuances of attending an SBL exam. As you know, SBL is very, very different from the other ACCA exams. It's a much more practical exam, and it's an applied paper, whereas most of the other exams are more technical. What I'm going to do on this session, I will begin by summarizing the key observations of the examining team when they were reviewing good and bad answers, and also what is the marker trained to look for and what do they award marks for, and then I'm going to summarize some of the common reasons why marks are lost. After that, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into some of the technical examples that you get on Read the Mind of a Marker. And then I'll summarize by giving you some practical advice on what is the best way to prepare for your SBL exam. And then please, if you have any questions as I'm talking, just send them in the Q&A, because we're going to conclude with a live Q&A session. But obviously, I will pick up any questions that you submit during the course of my presentation, so I can clear up any queries which you may have. So that summarizes what we're doing. Before I go on, I just want to say one final time that this is a great resource, and looking at the key insights from it, the first thing I would say would be that it is a must read if you want to pass the SBL exam. So the first thing is you must read it. This is not optional. You must read it. So RTMM is an abbreviation for Read the Mind of the Marker. So let's have a look at some of the things that the examining team said. The first thing they talked about was that marks are only given to answering requirements that are asked. Now, this might seem a little bit obvious, but it is something the examiner points out, because so many scripts come through where students sitting the SBL exam don't follow the requirements. Yep. And it's really important that you do that. And any deviation from those requirements, all it does is it wastes your time that you could be spending on acquiring marks on answering the actual requirements. Points made that do not deal with the requirements score no marks. So what I would suggest and what I say to my students is I read the requirements once, I read the requirements twice. Sometimes we're a bit nervy in an exam and we secrete a lot of cortisol, make us stressed. We can sometimes see things that aren't there. So I've read it once, I've read it twice, and then I do a very brief plan. And then just before I do anything with that plan, I read it a third time. Does the plan and the requirements match? If they do, we can be confident that we are on the right track. So I'm not saying read the whole of the scenario, just the requirements. And some people tell me, oh, I don't have time to do that. Well, as you can see from what the examiner says, there's a lot of people who write great answers to a different set of requirements, get no marks, and unfortunately fail the exam. So please, please, please take my advice if you would. The other thing that the examiner points out is that you don't get any marks for repeating the case information. And there is a tendency when reviewing student scripts to see students copying and pasting big chunks of both the pre-seen or the exhibits in their answers. And again, that gets no marks, but not only does it get no marks, it takes lots of time to do so and takes time away from time that could have been spent earning marks. So please don't do that. I think the examining team have a word that you may have come across before. And that word that they use is called synthesis. And basically what that means is you need to interpret what's going on in the case, the various things, and then you need to connect those issues together and draw a conclusion using your own words. Then you've added value, then you'll get marks. So synthesis is a word the examining team use quite a lot. What else were they saying? Well, they were saying that, well, again, it seems quite obvious, but some people seem to like to brain dump theory. So if a question comes on, I don't know, something about culture, something about strategy, we get a whole definition of information, academic, theoretical information on something about risk, about culture, about whatever. Yep. No marks for that. Yep. Yep. What you have to do is you have to take the information and synthesize it. And a good way of doing this would be using the theories that you might know, but use those theories as a catalyst. Yeah. And what that will do will help inspire your answers, provide a structure. And when we look at specific sample questions a little bit later, I'll show you how you can do this. Okay. So I'll go into that, but please, 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 you do not get any marks for just dumping theory. It's not a theory exam. It's a practical exam. It's a work-based context exam. Can you imagine in the workplace if your boss asked you, what do you think about the competitive situation at the moment? And then you responded to your boss, well, according to Michael Porter's 5 forces, Michael Porter's 5 forces are, firstly, there is a threat of new entrant. If there is a threat of new entrant, there could be barriers to entry. Barriers to entry include capital cost economies. Your boss is going to be thinking, what are you talking about? Yeah. So please, please, another tip from me would be think about how you would behave in the workplace. It will help you. Yep. So use theories as a catalyst, not as something to regurgitate. What else? Well, very important to read the professional skills marks. Yep. And you should use these professional skills marks as the lens through which you develop the technical marks. So use the professional skills marks as the lens which to develop the technical marks. And some people think that they're completely separate. I would say they're not mutually exclusive and they complement each other. Yep. So read those professional skills marks carefully. Yeah, they really help in getting good structure. What else were the examining team talking about from a marker perspective? Well, some people have a tendency just to write an answer, which is great. But actually, although this seems an obvious point, it's not about writing an answer. Yeah, it's about writing an answer which is clearly structured and focused on the marking scheme. Yeah. I tell my students to think of their SBL exam as a project management exercise in mark acquisition. Yep. And you need to make sure you treat it like that yourself. So how many marks are there? There's maybe 10 marks. Okay, what do I need to say to pass this? Well, let's get at least 6 or 7 good points. Yep. And let's make them look good. I'll show you what good ones look like and what not so good ones look like. But it is a job of mark acquisition. Yep. How do I get my mark sometimes move from a 1 point to a 2 point? Well, first of all, to repeat what I've said already, we talked about synthesizing. So brain dumping, no marks, but drawing your own conclusion from the information, potentially a mark. Yeah. If you were to develop that point with, so what? So what? Why did I say that point? Yeah. Why? Why have we made that? Yeah. Use this technique. So what? Why? And what's the consequence of what I've just made? And what that'll do, it will help you think a little bit more. Yeah. So when you make a point, to try to enhance that point and synthesize it even more, think about, well, what was the rationale in my brain for making that point? And what is the consequence of that point? That's going to really help you. Lots of students don't do that. And therefore, don't always even get 1 mark because they just kind of regurgitate the point. So try that technique. What else do we need to do? Well, again, it might seem obvious, but we need to be very familiar with the ACCA syllabus and the articles that the ACCA very helpfully provide on the platform, technical articles for SBL, because evidence from student answers is students are not comprehensively aware of the syllabus and sometimes completely ignore the articles. Yeah, they're not optional, either of them. Remember, the syllabus is not something to forensically go into tiny minutiae detail. Have a good understanding of the main themes, follow it through, understand it, yep, and then apply it. That would be key. So be familiar with the syllabus and the articles, very important. The other thing, and I get students saying, oh, are you going to, review the pre-scene for me? Well, people seem to see the pre-scene as an opportunity to question spot. And it's obvious from some answers that some candidates have actually prepared answers to what they think is going to come up from the pre-scene material. And it's a bit weird. They deliver answers which they think are appropriate to a question which they think will come up. But the requirement doesn't ask for that. So maybe you're preparing an answer to a question, what's a rainy day like? Can you do a detailed answer to what a rainy day is like? But the requirement actually asks, what is a sunny day like? And you're answering what a rainy day is like. It's quite bizarre, but there is evidence that quite a few students do that. I know it might depend on what people tell you. On some of the other professional exams which give pre-scene information, they do provide a lot of information to help you answer the case scenario. The ACCA case study is very different from that. What you need to understand is the pre-scene is there to help you get familiarity with the industry, to help you get familiarity with any of the terminology, but not to provide you with lots and lots of hints of what is coming up. Yep. So that is the key summation I would give of what the examining team talk about. What I want to do next is give you some examples of those above points and show you how they manifest themselves in actual answers. I'm only going to go through a few. It's really important that you go through all of them in your own time. Yep. So hopefully, you'll see how great they are and how useful they are. So what we're going to do next is we are going to look at some technical examples from Read the Mind of the Marker. So again, if you're watching this on recording, I'm assuming that you've carefully digested the Courgettes questions and you've also digested all the answers on the ACCA platform. Yep. And also the great information provided by the Read the Mind of the Marker resources. But if this is not the case, I would suggest that you go away and do that and that you pause your video now. Obviously, if you're watching this live, you'll have followed the instructions for this webinar and you would have done this. But make sure you digest all the resources, you familiarize yourself with the Courgettes case, you familiarize yourself with the answers, and also remember the ACCA official answers are not necessarily representative of what students should do because they also serve to have a tutorial purpose. So if you look at some of the answers that I'm going to show you, you'll think, well, they're a little bit thinner and a bit different to the official ACCA answers. Well, if you read the small print about the ACCA answers, there's no intention for that to represent what a student should do, but also has a tutorial purpose. Okay, so let's hone in on some of the questions. So the first thing I'm looking at is the task 1. Yep, so I'm going to look at task 1 from the Read the Mind of the Marker resources, and looking at the first task 1, what we have here is we have, just remind you, that Courgettes was a case about a low-cost airline, and I'm not going to go into all the detail because the majority of us have read this. But if we look at the requirements here, we'll see that these requirements are all about culture. We're asked to prepare briefing notes for the chief people officer, outline the problems in culture caused by the previous leadership style and the impact that the current CEO's leadership style has had on culture. We also see that we get professional skills marks for commercial acumen. Yep. So just to remind you, we're looking at culture. We're looking at Courgette's culture. And you might remember what I said in the introduction. And what I said in the introduction was not to regurgitate stuff, but to use academic theories as a catalyst to help inspire, to help structure your answer. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate when we look at the sample answer, how we do this. Yeah. So use theories as a catalyst. Don't just regurgitate. Yeah. So when you think about culture, I imagine, is there any theory that you might think about? I would think that a lot of you would probably think about the cultural web. Yeah. In your studies, you would have studied probably the cultural web. You would think, well, that's probably an academic model that can help. And what the cultural web does, it kind of describes the cultural dynamics within a business. And the cultural dynamics would be influenced by the following: symbols and titles. So, think about the military, where they wear uniforms that distinguish who's more important than others. Big offices, the power dynamic. Is it very flat? Is there a hierarchy? Thinking about the structure, again, is it flat? What control systems are in place? What rituals and routines define the culture? Saluting in the army and stuff like that. What stories are kind of perpetuated, and how all of this comes together to create a kind of, a paradigm that represents the culture. Yep. However, if you were to do this in the exam, you're not going to get any marks. Okay. You're not going to get any marks at all. But what you're going to do is you're going to use this information as a catalyst to help you structure your answer. What you're going to do with this information is you're going to synthesize it. You're going to connect it. And it basically means you take some of that information and you use it to interpret what is going on in the case. Yeah. So let's have another reminder of those task requirements. Those tasks, just in addition, as well as the information on the cultural web, you might also have read the article on culture on the ACCA platform. So there's some excellent resources there, which will be assumed you're fully familiar with, and make sure you do that. Yep. Please do that. I mean, the reason I say that is there's amazing resources on the ACCA website, on the Study Hub, on the YouTube channel. Yet some people want to listen to random commentators on Facebook. Yeah. And to be honest, the ACCA doesn't approve any of those people. Yeah. And I would say it's really important to only refer to officially approved ACCA resources rather than all the fake news that exists on social media. Yeah. So please stick to the ACCA Study Hub, stick to the articles that they provide, stick to maybe official ACCA approved learning providers, but be very, very careful looking at stuff on Facebook and the like, because most of it is rubbish. Normally, if it's free, it's no good. Yeah, that would be my general rule of thumb. If you want to check it out, put the person's name into the ACCA website, see if any reference comes to them. Put my name into the ACCA website. You'll see lots of articles written by me. You'll see webinars written by me, because the ACCA have looked at these. They have evaluated them for content and relevance. They don't do that for random people on Facebook. So watch out for that. Okay, what else? Well, we've read the article. We understand the cultural web. how would we use this? Well, let's have a look at an example of a good answer. So if you look at the answer on the resource, it will show you how the cultural web has been used. But just before I go into the answer, what I want to highlight to you is the layout. This is what your layout must look like. And to help the marker give you marks, you must make it easy for them to navigate through your answer. So what you can see here is a lovely subheading. You can see white space. Yeah, it is very clear when one point follows on from the next point. Yeah, so that is what you need to do in your exam. Yeah, please make your answers look like this, as this is the best way you're going to help the marker navigate your script and make sure they don't miss out on any of the points you're giving. So first lesson is about layout, is about mark focus. If you count the points made, you will also see that they reflect the marks that are available. You'll see that they use a so what and a why. So in your own time, just go back and look at what I said earlier and compare it there. What else do we have? Well, we have here the cultural web. So although the cultural web describes the dynamic, all the dynamics that could occur and which could impact the culture of a business, this answer only uses those that are relevant. Yeah. So if we look through it, what we'll see is it talks about the organizational structure. It talks about the power structure. It talks about the paradigm and stories. It then goes over the page and talks about control systems, routines, and symbols. But it contextualizes all of them in the context of the airline. The other thing that you can do when going through this in your own time is to fully digest the comments. So those of you who've been through this will see when a point is made, a note comes up. And here it says, well, we gave a mark here because there was clear identification of a problem here, that the hierarchy leads to poor communication. So what? Well, having a hierarchy leads to poor communication. And what's the consequence of that? Well, the consequence of that is low satisfaction and poor customer satisfaction. So a so what and a why perfectly demonstrated in the points. So please do miss out reading all these points at your peril. They're great resources for you to use. Okay, so there was an overview of how we use the cultural web. Obviously, you need to digest that in more detail. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is related to task 2. Yep. And in this particular example, what we have here is we were asked the following. We were asked to prepare a report which assesses the suitability, acceptability, and feasibility of the proposal. Yep. And professional skills marks were asked us to demonstrate skepticism. Okay. And, remember what I said earlier. I said, be familiar with the syllabus and the articles. Yep. And, if you were looking at the articles here, what you would be able to find, you would be able to find an article on the AC Share website on strategic planning. It's an article I actually wrote quite a few years ago, but still very relevant today. And in that article, it does talk about suitability, feasibility, and acceptability. It gives you a lovely framework on which to hang your answer. And obviously, you're going to have to read that in some detail. But if you'd approached your studies carefully, you would have read that article on the platform and you would have used it to help catalyze your answers. Yep. So let's have a look at what this particular answer looks like. So if we use the article to break it down, we would have been able to come up with an article something like this. It really helps to structure it. Again, if we're looking at this, we also need to make sure what the professional skills marks were for. And what were the professional skills marks for? Well, the professional skills marks were about being skeptical. Yep. So as well as being in a logical order, as well as having lots of lovely white space. It asks us about being skeptical and what skepticism means. And also the other thing, just to drive the point home, it's not just about being skeptical. If you look here, it says we're getting professional skills marks for skepticism in challenging the information presented and the views expressed by the CCO in an objective and courteous manner. So we have to show professionalism by not being rude, but not accepting things at face value. Yep. So we challenge it. So what did the answer look like? Well, what you see here is you see the answer is respectful but challenging. And they didn't accept that military training. So one of the things was to use the military to train pilots. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. You know, you're not doing kind of firing missiles out of your EasyJet flight or whatever, or doing rolls to escape the plane behind in the queue to land. It's maybe a bit different what a commercial airline pilot has to do compared to a military fighter jet pilot. And, you know, that's an excellent example, if you go away and read it, how to frame your answer in the context of the professional skills requirement. Yeah. And it's in stark contrast. If you look at the poor answer, if you were to look at the poor answer doesn't be skeptical at all. Yep. So go away and digest and see, here's a skeptical answer, here's a non-skeptical answer, here's an answer that got virtually all the marks, here is an answer that got hardly any of the marks. Okay. So that is a taster. Yep. That is a taster. And you've got to, I'm not going to encourage you, I'm going to insist that you go away and you digest all that great resource on what is inside the mind of the marker when marking papers, and then follow through what a good answer looks like, and follow through what a bad answer looks like, and follow through all of those notes. There's a lot of information there, so make sure you put quite a bit of time in the diary to do it. So as a final little summation before we get involved in some Q&A sessions, I just want to give you a very brief bit of practical advice on how to do well on your SBL exam. And this is based on students who are successful. Yeah, I meet over the years many prize winners, successful students. You don't need to win a prize, you just need to get over 50. But what connects them? They're personally motivated. So my advice would be, try to find your why. Why are you doing this? Where is it taking you? Who are you going to be when you're a qualified ACCA accountant? That will get you out of bed in the morning. That will focus your mind. Be organized. Tidy place, tidy mind is very conducive to good studying. Also, please stay away from all the false prophets on Facebook and other social media. The ACCA doesn't approve them. Only use an ACCA approved approach. So what does that mean? Well, do a course with an approved learning provider. Maybe use the ACCA Study Hub. The examiner has been all over it. You look at the ACCA YouTube channel. Also, do your mocks on the ACCA CBE platform. That's where your exam is taking place. I say to my students, if you were taking your driving test, would you practice on a bicycle, or would you practice in the car you're going to take your test in? Of course you practice in that car. So do your mocks on the ACCA CBE platform, please. It's a resource being provided for you. Please use it. Yeah. The platform has its quirks. It's definitely not Word or Excel, but it's what your exam is on. So please use it. What else do successful students do? Well, they don't use unofficial YouTube channel and Facebook. Yep. What you should do, in summary, sign up with an ALP or use official resources like the Study Hub, practice on the ACCA platform, be organized with a timetable of living, which means not just study time, but work, rest, and play, so that you have a full balanced life, and keep away from all the rubbish on Facebook. Okay? So that is pretty much what I want to say to you. I am now going to look at questions, and let me just get some access and just read some of the questions. Thank you for all your questions. Let me have a look. Sorry, I've got one or two. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong Q&A. I do apologize. So I have a question. What is the ideal preparation time for SBL on how to pass it? Well, it's funny. One of my potential students was asking me this same question this morning, and they're saying, is it the same number of hours to prepare for SBL as it is for SBR? And that's quite a difficult question to ask. I said, what takes longer to learn, a piano or a violin? How many hours to learn a violin and how many hours to learn a piano? It's a difficult one. I'd say give yourself a good, few months of organized, focused study, being supported by good resources, and you should be fine. ACCA SBL is different because it's much more practical, work-based. So sometimes people that have got more work experience find it easier. Those of us who sometimes win prizes in tax and technical exams sometimes find SBL difficult because they apply the same study technique they apply to tax that they apply to SBL. That's not how to do it. It's about learning to drive, I think, SBL. It's about practicing, getting it wrong, get some feedback, get better next time. So in terms of absolute numbers, I can't give you an absolute number, but that would be what I'd say. Cyrus says, how do I add depth to the points I make? I think I answered that by when you make a point and how I demonstrated it, how people follow through with a so what, a why, a consequence. So have a look at the example I gave again, but have a look at all the other great examples in the Read the Mind of the Marker resource. Are there no right or wrong answers for SBL? Well, am I correct? Well, is it right or wrong? So who's right? Who's right? Is Emirates or Ryanair right? And who's wrong? Emirates or Ryanair? They're both real life airlines. We've just been talking about a case on an airline. So who's right and who's wrong? Emirates, EasyJet or Ryanair? You see how there's not a right or wrong answer, or it's not any answer, but they all practice strategy in a different way. Ryanair and EasyJet practice cost leadership in slightly different ways, but very similar. Emirates practices a completely different approach. So who's right and wrong? It's not about being right or wrong. It's about different approaches. Yeah, different people have different business strategies which you can make money for. So thank you, Yong, for that question. This is my fourth attempt. What's my advice this time? Probably do something different from last time. Yeah. Have you had done mocks on the CBE platform? Have you had them marked? Have you had feedback on your performance? Have you followed an approved course of study using approved resources? Hopefully you have, but you need to check all those things, but do something extra or different this time. Should we start at any point from the statement of fact from the given info? I don't quite understand that question, Adwait, but I would just follow through things logically and orderly. That would always be the way I would do it in life. I wouldn't be jumping around. How to approach the exam? Do I have to read all the exhibits? Well, there is a great ACCA resource that both Martin and I have worked on about how to approach the ACCA exam. I think you'll find it on the ACCA YouTube channel. So that goes on for about an hour and a half. So have a look at that. Yeah, I would suggest you read all the exhibits. In answering your brief question, though, yes. What would my advice be on studying from now on to the exam? It depends on how much work you've done. My advice would be know what you are doing for every hour of the day. Know when you're getting up, when you're going to bed, when you're going out with your friends, when you're relaxing. But it's organized. It's not random. You reward yourself with, a good time with friends. You make sure you look after your job by giving appropriate time at work, but maybe try and manage your boss as well. But yeah, be organized, have a timetable of living. Do I have any advice on time management during this exam from Joey? Most definitely, Joey. Joey, I've recorded a whole video for the ACCA on how to approach the exam on time management. To briefly summarize it, you need to give equal time to all the tasks. Yep, the first 50% of the marks are normally easier to acquire than the second 50%. So you need to put yourself in the frame to get the first 50% of all of the task marks. To do that, you need management. Yeah, you need to feel, I've got to leave. I'm not saying this is an exact science, but if we say it's a 3-hour 15 exam, we spend about half an hour reading and planning. That gives us about 160 minutes left. And I would divide that by 80. Because the professional skills marks take no time to acquire. So, but you need to go and look at the other great resources the ACCA put out there. Approach to SBL. We talk about timing in detail. I show you how you lose marks, how you gain marks. Go and look at that video. It's on the ACCA YouTube channel. I think you might be in the resource. If it's not, go and look at the ACCA YouTube channel. It goes into lots of depth on timing. The key thing regarding, is it, 1.8 minutes or 2 minutes? It doesn't matter. What matters is you have control. You have a budget and you stick by that budget. Yep. So thank you for that question, Peter. Can we use bullet points in the exam? Well, I would suggest you're about mark maximization. If I'm a Michelin-starred chef, do I need to put all those little sauces on a plate and make the plate look nice? Or can I just all dump it on the plate? Would I be able to charge top dollar for my meal? I just dump everything on the plate. Or do I arrange it so it looks appetizing? It looks tempting. So yes, please don't use bullet points. Articulate with a so what, a why, a consequence. Don't leave the marker to work out what you mean. Markers are not paid to try to work out what you mean. Markers are paid to give you marks for what you say. So avoid bullet points. Which syllabus area should we focus on? Oh my goodness. Well, it sounds like something that I see on Facebook about what's coming up in the exam. You can waste time on that if you want, but remember that is time wasted. If you've got lots and lots and lots of time to waste, yes, please do that. You make sure you have a good overview, as I just said, of all of the syllabus areas. You have read the ACCA articles. You've probably summarized all of this your way with your notes. Yep. So what does the ACCA want students to learn from SBL? Good question again, Gaurav, as opposed to what to focus on. Well, again, the ACCA is a practical work-related exam. It is an exam to prepare students for the new world where all of the technical stuff is worked out by AI and bots. And for you to thrive in the world of finance going forward, you need to synthesize information. You need to develop insights into stuff. And SBL is just waking you up to that mindset. That's what ACCA SBL is. And sometimes you can gain good marks by using that kind of mindset in your exam. How shall we make the most of the pre-seen information? Again, I think I've created an hour video on this, how to use it, what it's for and what it's not for. And, you're going to get all these kind of alarmist Facebook kind of false prophets saying, oh, this is coming up, this is coming up. I mean, the key thing about the pre-seen is to familiarize yourself with the industry, understand the dynamic of that industry, not go and read company accounts of, say, for this low-cost airline, to go and read every low-cost airline set of accounts, but to understand, what is the business model? It's about flying with minimum overheads to be able to charge minimum prices, which means maximizing capacity, minimizing frills. Yeah. So get your head around the dynamics of the industry. If they're using any terminology like load factors, which is used to talk about how many passengers are on a plane, again, you need to know about that terminology. It might not be familiar to all of us, but it's not something we're using to question spot. Okay. So that's how we use the pre-scene. Why are professional marks so hard to get in SBL when we all work in professional jobs? Well, actually, Shahid, they're not. And, lots of students get full professional marks because they follow the requirements of what the professional skills marks are awarded for. If you follow what I was saying on all the other questions, like I was talking about skepticism, you too can get full professional skills marks. However, people work in professional jobs but seem to leave their professional job hat at home in the exam. And they think they need to talk about theory rather than talk in a workplace related way. It's really important if you're stuck on a question to think, what would I say in the workplace? What would I do at work? And sometimes students who I mark mocks for and homeworks for, I say, well, you didn't do very well there. What would you do in the workplace? Well, I do this, I do that, do that. Fantastic. So why didn't you say that in your answer? And it was, I thought I had to talk about theory. No marks for theory. Okay. That's why it's really important to practice questions and get feedback on them. So, good question. Thank you for that. Are we allowed to copy and paste text from the pre-scene or exhibit? Peter, you can copy away. Just ask for a few more hours in the exam in addition to what you get, because that's just a waste of time. It also probably annoys the marker. Be aware the markers mark just one question. They'll mark it 1,000 times. They know every single word from the exhibits and the pre-scene. What value have you added in copying and pasting? Yeah, you've added none. Yeah, it's like, what a fantastic student who can copy and paste. Definitely should win a prize for being able to. It's not a skill that's been tested. Yeah, the skill is synthesis. Copy and paste is not synthesizing. So avoid copy and pasting. Use your own interpretation like I demonstrated before. Okay, so lots and lots and lots and lots of great questions. I hope that has proven useful to you. Do not be afraid in the exam, just going back to the time management, you can leave. There's no negative marking. Yeah, and in the same way on SBR, you might not balance everything, but you can still get most of the marks if you don't balance it. You don't need to finish everything. The other thing that also wastes time, in addition to copy and pasting, is over-elaborate formatting. So obviously acknowledge the request to do a report or do slides, but don't spend half an hour with multiple fonts and multiple highlighting and multiple bolds. There's not really any extra marks for that. Okay, so make it professional, but don't make it over elaborate would be my advice. Yeah, that does take quite a bit of time. So let me head to a couple more questions. If I forget specific models such as Pestel or SFA and just answer the question related to the pre-scene and exhibits, of course, you get 100%, Amanda. All I'm saying is models are very useful because they just organize your brain to think in a certain order. But you do not reveal your source in your answer, but you use your source as a catalyst to structure. So if you look at my article on strategic planning process part 2, and you look at how we break down suitability or how we break down internal analysis or we break down external analysis, you'll see it gives a really nice structure and just makes it really easy to get multiple points. But there's no marks for the model. And people in real business use models to help put arguments together. So try and remember the model. There's not many models, but it's not about regurgitating them. It's about using them as a catalyst, as a structure to frame your arguments. That's what they're great for. Pooja asks how to keep focus during reading long exhibits and how to manage the information. Well, I would say to help you deal with business English that comes in chunks like it does in the pre-scene and exhibits would be to regularly read business English. And what I'd suggest there, try and read a bit of business journalism. And people say to me, well, which one? Which one? Well, it doesn't really matter as long as you read some decent business journalism where people talk in business English about business arguments. That is going to condition you to be able to read that kind of English more quickly. Yeah. So that's going to help you with the focus. How do you manage information? Highlight, break it down into chunks, extract things using models and frameworks are going to be helpful. Maria says, does SBL follow a format like SBR did? I think no would be the answer. It's an ACCA exam, Maria, but it's not in the same format. It's a case scenario. You need to have I imagine you're just thinking about doing SBL. SBL is a very different exam. It's an applied exam. SBR is a much more of a technical exam. Yeah, so that will be the difference. Is it mandatory to use a model? No. But a model is useful, Kamal Preet, to structure your argument. Yeah. Let me have a look if I've missed anything. Can I elaborate more on repeating marks for case information? I think I have, Akhil. You're not going to get any marks for copying. It's a strategic professional level exam, and you have proven to me you can copy. Great. That's a CFO trait, would it be? I don't think so. So you're not going to get any marks for copying. You're going to get marks for synthesizing the information. Is it normal to feel you don't understand or have learned all the theory? Well, it would be a syllabus requirement to do that, Sidi. So I think you just need to go back and calm down and just understand, trying to understand what they're trying to do. So what is the BCG matrix trying to do? What is the ANSOF matrix trying to do? The BCG matrix is trying to categorize products, different market shares and different stages of growth. So that, the ones that are up and coming, we would invest. The ones that are dying off, we probably wouldn't. ANSOF gives us, we stay with the same product in the same market. And then as that place gets saturated, we go to maybe a new market with that product. Or maybe we've exploited all our markets, we develop a new product. Just try and understand it and picture it, visualize it. That will help you. Yeah. That's going to help you a lot. Will Matthias, what's the difference? Oh, sorry, Imal, what's the difference between evaluation and analysis professional skill? Ooh, well, evaluation, you normally give the two sides to the story. Analysis would be more, have you dealt with all of the information provided? Yeah, I agree with you. It's subtle, but there is a difference. But it won't just ask for professional skills marks for evaluation. It will say professional skills marks for evaluation for giving X, Y, and Z, just like I showed you on the one on skepticism. So have a look at that in the Read the Mind of a Marker article. Will there genuinely be no marks for definitions? Matthias, just let me say it one more time. No. And just if you missed that one, no. And just for a final confirmation, no. No marks for definitions. Okay. What skill have you added by defining? Yeah. It's about taking information and drawing conclusions from it. Yeah. Providing insight. That's what we want the finance people of the future to do. And that's what SBL is trying to wake up your mind to do. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just seeing if I accidentally miss any. I don't think I did. I think we've gone over everything. Can I ask, is there any tips to analyze or fully understand the pre-scene? I think, I've given a whole hour of that on another video, so have a look at that. Been attending classes, don't feel confident yet. I think one other thing, Aisha, would be that one thing you've got to watch out in an exam is stress and lack of confidence. If you do the work, if you put in the time and you're using proper resources, you should pass this exam. Believe that. The ACCA also have some great resources about how to deal with stress, about how to relax, how to be mindful. They're all going to be really useful in the exam to make sure you don't panic. Some of my students who, would be getting 80, 90% in mocks panic and get like 50 in the exam. And it's like, gosh, I thought I was going to win a prize. And then I got 50. But so what happened? But they panicked. Yeah. So if forewarned is forearmed, and there's lots of great resources, again, on the ACCA platform that can help you dealing with stress, panic, breathing techniques, motivation techniques. Have a look on Student Accountant. I've written some articles on motivation and exam technique. There's also some great podcasts the ACCA produce on this. There's all these great resources. Yeah. In fact, you're going to spend so long looking at all these great resources, you're not going to look at anything on Facebook and wherever else. Okay. So, good question. Thank you. So be confident, believe in yourself. A 100-meter runner, Usain Bolt, doesn't go up to the starting line of the 100-meter Olympics and goes, oh gosh, they look really fast, those other people. He stands there with his little pose and I'm going to beat the lot of you. That's what you're going to do. Believe in yourself. If you put the work and you put the effort in, you're going to be a qualified accountant very, very soon. Believe it. Believe it. Yeah. It's really important. Yeah. All of those champion athletes visualize themselves winning. Are you, or are you, oh, I can't do it. You can decide on the two narratives you want to follow. If you put the work in, you'll pass this exam. Take notice of all these great ACCA resources, digest, read the mind of the marker, and you will be fine. Yeah. Satinder says, I can explain the points in very plain English. Do I really need to use business English? You don't have to, but that would be the language of the workplace. People ask me, do I get penalized? There's no negative marking in SBL. There's no negative marking. So if you do lots of bad spelling, it's not an exam of English eloquence, I think is how the examiner once put it. But, it will help you if you read regular business English. That's all I'm saying, Satinder. If you're not doing it, I would suggest it is a good thing to do. In terms of technical articles for SBL, they are on the ACCA SBL platform underneath technical articles. You should be looking at that. What is the difference between synthesis and enhanced general knowledge from Shahid? Well, synthesis is taking two bits of information, connecting them, and then from that connection, drawing an insight or a conclusion. Enhanced general knowledge, I suppose, could be that, but it could be many other things as well. When I've talked about synthesis with you, that's what I've wanted you to do. Yeah. Okay. Good. Have we got any others? Yeah. No, that's great. Great engagement, everyone. I think we'll probably give you a kind of 2-minute warning on the questions. And if you have any more, can you submit them in the next minute or so, and I will deal with them. And then I think we're going to bring this thing to a close. So quick 2-minute warning on the questions. And then, but don't feel obliged. You have to ask. You've asked some amazing questions. I think the key thing that we're going to do is we're going to go and look at the Read the Mind of the Marker. Excellent resources. We're going to look through all the notes. We're going to look at a good answer. We're going to really think, why is that a good answer? Why is that a better answer than the poor answer? What did the poor answer not do? Yeah. Did they focus on the marks? You'll see a lot of the poor answers actually look quite good. The layout is quite nice. And you think, well, that looks okay. The content is not sufficient. They've just regurgitated the stuff in the case. They copied and pasted, no marks. So I've said it. They've just quoted a theory, no marks. Remember that. And if you just follow that, and don't forget, all you need to do is get over 50 on the day of the exam. The day of the exam is over 3 weeks away. Well, 3 weeks away today. You just need to get yourself organized for the next 3 weeks. You need to maintain focus and motivation and belief in yourself that you can do this, and you'll do fine. Yeah, you'll do absolutely fine. But you don't need to be brilliant today. You need to be brilliant, or you need to get over 50 in 3 weeks' time. To get over 50, you need to answer all of the tasks and try to get at least 50% on each of the tasks. You will get more. But if you spend a disproportionate amount of time on one task, believing you're much better at that one, that is going to cause you a problem, because you're not going to potentially get as many marks as you would if you had a balance between task 1, 2, and 3. Again, read or watch the video I created on how to approach SBL, and I talk about that and how after you've got the first 50%, it takes more time per minute to acquire 50 to 100 marks than it does to require 0 to 50 marks. Okay, so just watch that one. Okay, alrighty. Well, I think we've done our 2-minute warning, and I think everyone seems pretty satisfied. We've had no more come through. Great engagement, everyone. Make sure you take that same engagement to your studies. Believe in yourself. If you're getting stressed, there's various things that the ACCA resources will, do some exercise, learn some mindfulness. These are all things that we can do to make sure we give the best possible self in the exam, the person that's not stressed out and worried, the person who believes they're going to pass it. Yeah. Thanks for all your attention. Martin, I don't know whether you want to add anything.
Not at all, Sean. Thank you so much for that great session. Lots of questions we've had there, but thank you for addressing them. And the ones that we haven't been able to respond to, you have already addressed them in the videos that you have done for us. So just to highlight that these videos are available on the SBL playlist of the ACCA YouTube channel for student support resources. And you can navigate also through the ACCA website. I've shared the link to the YouTube playlist on the chat. So please do have a look. Spend some time interacting with those videos. There are videos about how to use a pre-scene, videos how to manage your time in the SBL exam, videos about how to earn, the professional skills marks in the strategic professional exam. So we have all that content available for you. So please do create some time and watch those, and also read the article that we've been focusing on today. Read The Mind of the Marker in more detail, do a bit more practice. The mocks went live yesterday, so in the CBA practice platform, the SBL mock is there. Please do attempt it in exam conditions. Once you are done, self-mark on the marking tab at the top. You'll have access to the model answer and the marking guidelines. So really lots of support there to help you in the run-up to the exam. In case you missed anything in this session, the recording will be available. You should receive an email tomorrow with that link. So no worries, you can always come back and listen in or go over the session again. So thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And a big thank you to all the colleagues in the back end who've been assisting with the questions and the technical bits. From the rest of us at ACCA, it's best of luck and all the best in your preparations and, of course, in your SBL exam. Thank you so much and goodbye for now.
Best of luck, and stick to ACCA resources, everyone.